If a schizophrenic person took a picture of a hallucination, would they still see it in the picture? Mental health. Edit. Because some people are misunderstanding my question, I meant, would the schizophrenic person's hallucination project to them in the picture as well or not? I don't mean whether they can actually photograph the hallucination for someone else to see. I've heard some people say that it's a reality check they use and it works, and I've heard others say it doesn't work for them, so I guess it just depends. I know it's different, but I have OCD and do this. For some reason, just having the image seems to make it click that I did correctly check stuff. I have OCD and that's been a compulsion of mine as well. I take a picture so I can check that I didn't touch something or that two things didn't touch each other all the time. No, they typically would not. This is also another reason some schizophrenic people have service dogs. If the person is hallucinating, they can check to see if their dog is reacting. If the dog doesn't react, it clues the person in that the thing they are seeing isn't real. What if the dog is a hallucination? Well, then you have two dogs, but you only need to feed one of them, probably the one that gets hangry at you. I had a friend with schizophrenia who used to text me photographic proof of his hallucinations during episodes, which lasted sometimes weeks. I imagine he probably still saw the hallucination in the photo when he chose to text it to me. That's my personal experience, and I'm not sure how common that is. Quite common. So many photos on so many different drugs, I sent to be just a wall, lol. Same with people posting during a trip or something. Unfortunately for my friends with mental health issues, no drugs were involved, and they didn't sober up after. Luckily most sought help upon realizing, but some are lost to the delusions and no longer with us or in jail. ETA, we need better mental health services globally. Many would have survived and even thrived. Why do people sometimes joke about white people food being bland, when Spanish, Italian, French, Balkan and Greek food exists? So typically in the US, white equals Anglo-Saxon, think WASP stereotype. Italians weren't considered white until the 1920s. I don't think Spanish, Balkan, or Greek would be considered white in the regards of that joke. As an Asian, I find it perplexing. Like, to me even Jewish people are white. So it's like white people racially hating other white people, then saying that one of them isn't white. Weird. Edit. The context of this is where I've heard people say they aren't white, they're Jewish, because a lot of people are dumb. Having said that, I'm pretty sure this comes from food from the UK. Yeah, this is a hugely Anglo-coded stereotype. Is also the history of being white in America. It meant being a WASP. When cooking, should you always only stir in only one direction? I worked at Panda Express 6-ish years ago and I was, full disclosure, terrible as a kitchen hand. But I remember my boss telling me when I was pouring water into our giant rice cooker that when you stir things in cooking you always have to stir in one direction, or else it tastes worse. Or something. I got yelled at for switching directions with the spoon and it led to him saying this. Anyway, I remember thinking that's dumb, but I don't want to get fired, but to this day I still will only stir things in one direction. Honey into coffee, water into oatmeal, prepping scrambled eggs in a bowl. So is this dumb? Does it depend on what I'm making? I stir only until the fat molecules are aligned with the sunlight. If it's dark outside, then I align the protein structures with the constellations. If it's cloudy and dark, then I order a pizza. Is the US going to ban Red Note, law and government? With people flocking to Red Note from TikTok ahead of the ban, I am a little confused about what the federal government would do with the app. It is even more under the control of China, so would probably fit more under the definition of the law that was meant for TikTok. If so, who would implement the ban and when could they do it? If Trump decides to, sure. The Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, the law that will ban TikTok starting on January 19th, has a provision by which the president can designate an app owned by a company based in a foreign adversary, which is an official term with an official definition. There are specific countries that are legally considered foreign adversaries, China among them. A foreign adversary controlled application and start the 180-day divestiture countdown before the app is banned. Regarding the follow-up, the president must notify Congress at least 30 days in advance of publicly announcing the designation. So if Trump did that on his first day in office, he'd announce it to the public no earlier than February 19th, and then, assuming it wasn't acquired by a non-Chinese company, which, to be clear, wouldn't happen, but it is a way to avert a ban under the law. Red Note, Xiaohongshu would be banned on August 18th. EDIT, Added some clarifications that were missing from the original comment about when TikTok will be banned and what a foreign adversary is. Do women see each other as competition as much as men, or how much is it? Since childhood I've always noticed girls acting as a team against guys. Guys literally shed on each other in front of a girl just for some random female validation. Ignore old male friends to talk to some female friend, but I don't notice this behavior from girls. It seems women always support their kind, unlike guys dying for female approval. There seems more unity, tribalism among girls, or is it just on the surface? This is so interesting. As a woman I always thought the opposite. Boys, men always seemed so chill and supportive of one another. Whereas the girls, women always seem so nasty and bitchy to one another. I guess this post has revealed that we are all equally as shitty regardless of gender. Guys tend to be outwardly negative as a way to show friendship. Towards enemies, it's generally blatant and direct. Women tend to be outwardly supportive and agreeable both with friends and enemies, but towards the enemies they are indirectly passive-aggressively competing and sabotaging. Should I be insecure about my clit size? Obviously a burner account because I'm beyond embarrassed. My whole life I've had a protruding clitoral hood with a clit that's maybe an inch or so. To the point that if I wear a bikini you might see a little bump or protrusion. I'm incredibly embarrassed of it, as the clit itself looks like a very tiny head of a penis. I feel disgusting and super unattractive, to the point that I have panic attacks over potential hookups, or being caught naked by a roommate. Even more so due to fluctuating hormones it seems to have gotten larger. I'm just really ashamed and I am terrified someone will be disgusted or laugh, or talk about it after hooking up with me with other people. So yeah, is this so abnormal that men would find it notable or off-putting? Well, my dudes are just happy to be there. Some of us animals ask for tits in our usernames. This is a non-issue. Is it bad to want to have sex with close friends? I want to have sex with my friends, but not because I'm sexually attracted to them necessarily. The thought of making them happy through sex, for example, makes me extremely happy. For a lot of people, sex and orgasms are one of the biggest forms of pleasure and happiness. Often I'll masturbate to the thought of specific friends, and the thought of making them happy makes it more pleasurable for me, but I always feel guilty. I also want to be more intimate with friends in general, like cuddling or holding hands. And I want to learn everything about them, stuff no one would ever really know about, so I can use it to make them happy, such as knowing their favorite snacks to bring them. This mostly applies to my close friends. Is it bad or weird for me to want to have sex with all my friends to make them happy? I don't believe in thought crime. It's what you do, not what you want, that defines good and bad. Your desires are actually kind of sweet, in a weird way. Of course, there are many ways you could act on them that would make your friends deeply uncomfortable. That would ruin the friendships and drive them away. Endeavor not to act in those ways. I agree, but I don't think having consensual sex with a close friend is necessarily a bad deed. The problem is rather that people are often not aware of the often negative consequences it has on the friendship, or simply ignore the consequences, and that is why people generally advise against it.